Welcome. Hit the like button. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell. Share the show. Tap that Cash App link at the bottom of the screen if you do feel so inclined. Thank you for listening. This is Joey. Let's get started. I want to dive back into a couple of topics, particularly the media. And I want to talk to you guys about the battlefield that you're going into on the internet. Posted here is an article. So you guys been wondering why this Elon Musk buys Twitter issue's been going back and forth for so long and what the deal is. And I'm showing you this article right now that's showing you that it's reported that about 80% of the people online on Twitter are bots. Most of that shit's bots. And not only are they bots, they're bots that have been around for like 10 years. Your government's had the ability to make fake accounts on the internet in order to sway opinions for years. This is not something new. So when you hear talks about Russian misinformation and they tried to sway the election by using bots, or when ADOS was Russian bots, they've had this technology for a decade. And it's common practice to spam social media platforms in order to sway opinions. I know some of you guys are thinking, well, wait a minute, if 80% of the profiles on Twitter are bots, what's the point of that? Is to control the remaining 20% that are humans. Most people, remember I told you guys before about the Abilene paradigm, how most people will go along with things they may not even agree with because it looks to them like everybody else is going along with it. Most people don't want to rock the boat. There's very few contrarians in the world. That's why they stand out. This is another means of manufacturing consent. Elon Musk walked smack that. Two stories. I'm gonna put up two more real quick. So one, when you buy a business, when you buy anything, there's a vetting process. And Elon Musk initially went in to go buy Twitter, and through his vetting process realized, oh, this whole thing is a sham wow. They don't have this many profiles. They don't have this many people on their platform. They have a fifth of that. And in so him doing that, he blew the whistle inadvertently on what the whole deal is with all these social media platforms. You think that they're one way, but they're really another. You think you're in this big ass party, but really you're in a small ass room with a whole bunch of bots surrounding you and making your environment. You're in a video game and you don't even know it. You're walking around arguing with and talking to non-playable characters and shit. Not only that, not only are they bots, it's so hypersaturated with bots and intelligence agencies trying to influence the general public. Here's another article. And again, none of this is deep web, Columbo. No, this isn't the Matrix. All this stuff is just regular news. This is the stuff that they're allowing you to know. So imagine the real conspiracy shit. In an effort to try to get Twitter and Facebook and Instagram to clean up online bots, this stuff is so hypersaturated that they accidentally shut down one of our programs. Look at this. We have programs where we try to influence the elections of other countries. And oops, actually tripped one of our own wires there. Own goal. Sorry, friendly fire. I'm only telling you this so that you understand the battlefield that you're getting into when you're trying to make messages go through to the public, or even messages go through to each other. Getting a clear message through without noise, without distortion, without interference. Hell, just getting a message through is very hard. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of focus, takes a lot of discipline, and it takes vision. Otherwise, you will misrepresent yourself. You will trip up. And that trip up will be exploited by your opposition that has a much bigger microphone and much more platforms than you. Moving on from that, but in light of that, I want you to keep that in mind, to know that when you're on Instagram, when you're on Facebook, when you're on Twitter, you're not just on there talking to people and getting people's raw opinions. You're talking to people plus 5 times as many programs made to influence those people. And that's if whatever you say or do gets past a community guidelines policy, which do not really exist. You are about to do big time politics on a battlefield that's set up like this. So the question becomes, how do you take advantage of that? How do you exploit that? Understand, when you're arguing with folks, or when it seems like you're being ratioed, in many cases, these are programs. They're not real people. Now, I wanted to get back into media because I mentioned to you guys earlier in the previous episode about 3 pivotal moments in media with relation to control of mass public. One of them I mentioned was good. One of them I mentioned was a failure. The one I mentioned that was good was War of the Worlds, which is a completely fictionalized war that people were convinced was real based solely on listening to the media. They didn't see anything with their eyes. They didn't hear anything personally with their ears. They did not experience anything from person to person. There was not an actual person saying, yeah, I saw that. They only believed that reality based on the media at the time, which was the radio. The other example I gave to you was the one that was bad, which was the coverage of the Vietnam War, which was too real, too gritty, too gruesome, and showed the truth of what was going on. And it made people in America have the most informed reaction to that war, which was not wanting to be involved in it, right? So that was a big failure. And from that day, that's where you get intelligence agency takeover of your news media to start presenting wars and military actions and foreign policy as a movie for Americans rather than reality. But I left out the third example, and that's because that example is so big it needs a section of its own because it's so pivotal. And that media coverage, see, those 2 things, one was the radio, one was television, but we're forgetting about print. And print media is so important here in America. Print media was the media at the time that they were thinking of when they wrote the media's importance into the Constitution. See, the media, the printing press, the newspapers in our country were pivotal to the American Revolution and the formation of the country. If you go back and look at who owned newspapers, if we ever sat down and had a grown-up retelling of how the country really got formed and how the founding fathers made this happen and what their angle was, you would realize it was really much more of a very clever land grab back deal than anything else. It wasn't for any patriotism or hatred of taxes. Most people at the time before the newspaper started to turn them didn't really have a problem with paying the taxes. They understood that the crown was making some ambitious moves. Most of the people living in the Americas at the time were looking at their lives like they were given a second chance, because these were criminals and invalids and people that were more or less sentenced to America to help repopulate this. To help populate these colonies. Most of these colonies looked at themselves as separate colonies that were more focused on beefing with the other colonies, fighting for resources, than looking at themselves as America or a country. That change in opinion was brought about by these newspapers. And if you look, a lot of these early newspapers were owned by founding fathers. They needed people here in America to have an attitude of wanting to separate from the crown. They owned a lot of land out here. They owned a lot of businesses out here. And America formed as its own country means bigger profit cuts for them. They wouldn't be paying the crown. They were the ones that didn't want to pay them damn taxes. They mastermind that whole thing, and they used the press to do it. They used their control over media to do it. Before a single shot was fired, ever, in the American Revolutionary War, there were pamphlets going around. Start going and looking back and looking at our history in this country. It's your country too. And you'll see how many newspapers were actually owned by founding fathers or people connected with the founding of the country in order to drive fervor and anger towards the crown. Exaggerating story. There were stories. Don't get me wrong, because they were trying to crack down. But the media's ability to do what they call yellow journalism, which is sensationalized journalism, and to drive a narrative that would manufacture consent for going to war with Great Britain or with the British Crown. That was the ultimate example of media here in these United States, media and politics. That was the ultimate example of media's control over the attitudes and opinions of the American public. Many of these soldiers were direct. You know what I'm saying? Not until the end of the Revolutionary War did you have people coming in from other countries, but many of these people were direct citizens, weren't even soldiers, Minutemen that were driven to this cause because of what they were told, even though it was bullshit. Now, there are many bigger examples. You use the Bible, for example, and the King James Bible, but we're talking about for America, American history. I've said before, the Black Civil Rights era, the second Civil Rights era, the era of the 1960s, is regarded in such high regard with Black people because it was one example of how we were able to use spectacle and media to our benefit. We were able to hack their media system. I've said before, the game plan was to throw the reality of Black life right on white fantasy on television. We're photobombing them. You're having your nice white Sears Day parade or your Easter parade. Oh, it comes these niggers marching. And then you have to respond by spraying water and getting dogs and shit like that, which is embarrassing. Now the world sees how you keep your Negroes in line. You just ruined your Thanksgiving parade. We were everywhere. Now they perfected how to filter us out again. And they're even moving towards that on the internet. And you're going to have to figure out, how do you get around that to get your message out to your people? You know, to be honest with you, I feel like we're about maybe 10 years off of getting proper reparations. And what I mean by proper reparations is, I think we could get reparations right now if we wanted it. But the problem is this. The problem is, would it be in a form that would actually benefit us like it should? I want to use an example. The NFL has settled with the players union for concussion money. And they settled for like $1 billion or something like that, just right out the gate. And it wasn't until then that the dumbass players union realized, oh shit, we just settled for something that's way under what we should be getting. Because at the time, they didn't have all the proper studies on the concussion issue and how far reaching it was. The owners did. So the owners realized, man, it's cheaper to keep them. I'm going to go ahead and settle out of court, pay them $1 billion so that the issue's resolved. So that when they realize that we probably owe them $1 trillion, too late, we already settled. Being uninformed is one of the quickest ways to take L's. And right now, I feel like if we marched and fought for reparations right now with the political maturity and mental level we have right now as a group of black people, we would end up getting like some free Jordans or something like that and be happy about it and not realize halfway through, wait a minute, and it's too late. We keep talking about a check of any size, even if it was a Googleplex dollars, is not the answer. You want to be getting paid checks forever. You want a piece. You want to be tapped into and linked in with the revenue of the country because you were an essential part of the revenue of the country. You are a special class. All the things that white society makes it seem like affirmative action and stuff is for black folks, that's what it should actually be. Where it's like, no, I'm black, so I get this. hey, that's not fair. Shouldn't have slaved. You know what I'm saying? Like it's supposed to be like that. You're supposed to be tied into things that make money for the country. You're tied into a portion of what the medical hierarchy gets, of what the medical industry gets, what the oil industry gets, what the especially the agriculture industry gets. All them things that exploited and made money off of you, now you make money off of them. According to the such and such Negro treaties of 2025, right? Like that's how it's supposed to work. It's not supposed to go, okay, nigger, here's your check. Now stop whining. It's bad politics for you. Very bad. And I don't think that we're at a point where we understand that yet. And I know we're not at a point where we can vocalize that. I think I've said in another episode, you know, it's cliche when you see them go like on the TV shows when they have like the stereotypical union or, you know, protesting group. And they got the leader going, what do we want? And they go this. And they go, when do we want it? Now, right? That sounds cliche, but Before you have a movement, you really do have to be able to answer those two questions. You got to be able to answer those two questions. And we can't say what reparations looks like. And what we are doing wrong is we're telling them we want something and then letting them make it up until we go, yeah, that's what we want. No. You need a lobbyist. You need to draft all this shit up yourself. We need to draft all this shit up ourselves with lawyers who work for us. That's how you push legislation. And what we want is we want permanent payments in perpetuity. That's forever, ever. We want specification in the census. We want specification in government contracts and set-asides, just like women do, just like Native Americans do, just like gays get now. We want specification. We want business preferences when it comes to resources and taxes, just like other groups get. We want federal protective status and anti-hate crime bills, just like the Asians get. We want all that. Run us our rights, right? That's what we want. But we don't have a media apparatus strong enough to project and push this message out to each other, let alone to the country at large, right? We don't have that ability, but we kind of do. Our issue is our inability to stay on code and our inability to stay on message. And it looks like we're starting to get that together. But we've got some kinks we got to iron out. When it comes to our black media. And it's not really a critique on the black media itself as much as it is a way of how we look at it. We do not have NBC's, CNN's, Fox News's, big 24-hour, far-reaching organizations with lots of money that can pump lies out and propaganda. We don't have that. The reality is that new black media exists on old white infrastructure. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. A lot of you are trying to move your audiences off of these platforms. And I think that's wise, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult because it's much more convenient for someone to listen to you on their YouTube app than it is to go get your specific app. That's going to be a very, very small, it's going to be a very, very small batch of people that are going to do that. That's just the reality. And these white companies have the same problem. Look at Donald Trump. Look at how big and popular he was. He was the president. But once they deplatformed him, he got millions of dollars and he made his own platform called truth.net or whatever it is. But that doesn't have as far of a reach as Twitter. And that man has an audience. So that lets you know how difficult it would be to do that. And to be honest with you, it would waste a lot of energy right now. All you're trying to do is get your message through. You have to deal with the reality that your message can be cut off. The feed can be cut at any time. Your channel can be deplatformed and censored at any point in time. And it looks like the odds of that are high because right now, with this awakening with black folks, the powers that be are having a difficult time using their ability to influence and persuade, and they're just going with the option of censor. You need to use that to your benefit because censoring, overhanded, heavy-handed censoring sometimes can have what's known as a Streisand effect. A Streisand effect is known as like a reverse reaction of a crowd to something you were trying to cover up, you covering it up has now caused them to draw more attention to it. Now, I want to segue what I was talking about with the media coverage that led up to the Revolutionary War to talk about drawing a consensus, because that's what that media at the time was used to do. It was made to reform these groups of people that were thrown together that looked at themselves as Englishmen abroad, that looked at themselves as Europeans living abroad, or at the most, members of the Charleston colony, members of the Alabama colony, members of the New England colony, right? Who were against those damn Carolinians. This media persuaded them to look at themselves as this new idea of Americans. We're us, we're not them. That was the first step of that phase of the media and those papers, was to make all of those different spraddled groups of white people see themselves as Americans, and then to see how, as Americans, they're being screwed over by those non-Americans. Very simple, very effective. And like I told you in episodes before, you galvanize the people, you present the problem to the people, and then you empower the people by giving them a call to action by which they can solve their problem. It's really simple. What do we want? When do we want it? How do we get it? Now, New Black Media has been doing an excellent job doing exactly what I hoped, which was making it very clear to the Democratic Party that black folks ain't showing up to this midterm, and making it very clear why. Now, in reality, we know why. Episode's back, right? But you got to learn how to ride a wave if you want to be a surfer. And New Black Media has been doing an awesome job riding that wave and saying, we're not showing up to the midterms, and here's why, as black people. And black people have been doing an excellent job not being enthusiastic about voting and making it clear, we not coming, right? I'm not going to be here, right? Right? We made it very clear. We ain't impressed. The Negroes remember. Now what needs to start happening, that I'm already seeing starting to bubble, is there needs to start being real, sizable rallies with heavy hitters in the black community. And it looks like we're about to get to that time. And I think it's important, now that we get to that time, that we address another problem in the media, which is agent provocateurs, time wasters, distractors, and bullshitters. I've used this reference before. You know, I said, with regards to spectacle, with regards to event, with regards to things that are naturally bringing attention to themselves, that gets everybody's ears and eyes, you're going to have people that wish to leech off of that attention because they can't get it for themselves. They might be saying the same thing that you're saying, but something about the way they're saying it, or something about who they are, makes people turned off by their argument. And they see you shining on it, or they see this spectacle shining on it, and they look at it as their opportunity to parlay some of that energy over their way. I use the example of a sporting event. If you're into sports and the Super Bowl's coming, or the World Series is coming, or the NBA finals are coming, or the playoffs and anything, if you've ever been down to one of those events, you'll see there are a bunch of people doing demonstrations there that don't have shit to do with that game. And there's a couple of usual staples, no matter where you go in the country. There's always going to be the anti-abortion demonstration guy with like the gruesome pictures of abortions and shit walking around. There's going to be the dude on the bike raising money for something. There's going to be all kinds of panhandlers raising money for bullshit. They don't have anything to do with that game, but they know there's a lot of foot traffic and a lot of eyes and attention down there because of that spectacle. And protest and politics and all that shit is no different. You got to be able to create spectacle. If you don't have your own media news network that can create your propaganda for you, then you got to be able to create spectacle or ride spectacle. Now, there are two that black people are able to take advantage of spectacle. One of them is when a black person gets killed by the police. That'll get some attention for a while. If it bleeds, it leads, and mainly because white folks are wanting to know if we're going to riot. The other time of year when black people can produce and take advantage of spectacle with regards to white society is during election season. It's during election season. This is the only time of year where white folks as a whole on the left and the right are concerned with what are black people going to do? If we're going to vote or riot, white folks are very interested in what our activities are going to be. Now, there is a section of black people who work closely and not so closely with our political parties. And they've been eating very good for a very long time, doing the bare minimums. And what they do is their job is to advertise voting to the black community. That's it. That's their job. And it's a very easy job because black people normally just fall in line. It's usually a very easy argument you need to just go vote. And it's assumed you're going to go vote Democrat. So they don't even got to tell you who to vote for, what to vote on, what the issues are. Just go do an activity. And I told you guys before, I said there's a whole black political economy of misinforming black people, just speaking whatever the Democratic Party line is from top to bottom. From top to bottom. I've told you how the Congressional Black Caucus is 50 votes of free rubber stamped yes ma'ams for Nancy Pelosi. She doesn't have to negotiate for anything for these votes. They're 50 votes representing the 50 blackest black ass districts in America with the worst resources and worst conditions in the entire country, bar none. And when she comes and tells them to vote on whatever thing that she wants them to vote on, they just say, okay. They don't ask for shit. You got God knows how many black mayors throughout the country with no power. None whatsoever. No power, no resources, no water, no hope. No thank you. Don't got shit, but they're a figurehead. A figurehead that's just there to make the spot look progressive. Even if they're the most well-meaning black mayor in the world, even if it's Crazy Joe from damn Lean On Me, he has no resources. And you have no political interest from the people. The average black person don't really get involved in politics like that. They might go vote for Obama. They're going to vote some Democrat shit because the other side is racist. We don't think any further than that. We don't realize they're both racist as shit. We've had some examples, and I want to use this to segue because my main question is do we know how to use this media to start portraying us as more politically mature? You see, right now, the overwhelming message and propaganda about black people politically in the media is that we're little ass kids, is that we're dumbass little ass kids. I don't want to talk about this whack ass vote commercial that Trina and this juicy nigga put out. I don't want to talk about that on the immature level of us reacting to how, yeah, we know it's offensive. We know it's offensive. We know it's stupid. We know it's lowest common denominator. We know they're insulting us. But here's the bigger question we got to start looking at if we want to solve this. Why? How does this happen, right? Y'all remember P. Diddy, Vote or Die? You know this is the same thing, right? You know there's actually voter outreach campaigns and government contracts that go out to these entertainers that you can look up and verify. That is the reason why all of a sudden they're making this shit. Didn't Trina just get caught saying some overtly anti-black shit like a couple of months ago? Now they're tapping into her because she's just driven by civic duty to tell the black community to vote. And keep in mind, this is the second or third time that using the idea of withholding sex as a means to getting black people to vote. Now, keep in mind, this was a message to black men from the quote unquote politically connected black women. Just like I was talking about a few episodes ago about we can't get mad at Nancy Pelosi and them white folks kneeling in kente cloth because some black person told them to do that. Some black person in the Congressional Black Caucus, in some black sister girl office, in some figurehead tokenized position, told them that it would be a good symbolic gesture to represent black American life as kente cloth. That's like representing white American life through plaid, right? Like what the hell does that mean? The hell does that even mean? And just like that kente cloth, someone has told white folks at the top have got, because Trina didn't wake up one day and decide to tell black folks this idea, right? This is the juvenile vax that thing up video all over again. This is P. Diddy, Vote or Die. Like I said, these artists aren't deep. These artists aren't deep. They're talented, but they're not deep. Trina didn't wake her old dusty ass up. Trina got that same dance move. Trina didn't wake her old dusty ass up to talk about this out of the goodness of her heart. She picked up a contract. Remember when the George Floyd riots went down and shit was getting real and it looked like it was about to be the end of the world, most artists was MIA. And silent as church mice. There was like 5 people that was doing or saying anything. So niggas talking about politics now, it's because checks are getting passed out. There's a whole money grab around fundraising, around collecting black votes for white people amongst the entertainer and fake black activist and black talking head political class. That whole game is about just collecting votes from the black community. But you got to understand how the messaging is coming at you. Black men on record have noted that we're voting on the economy. We're voting on foreign policy. Black men vote more on foreign policy than black women do. We're voting on family values. We're voting on taxes. No vote, no vucking. What? You can tell. Just that entire phrase has some frizzy-haired white lady with crazy colored glasses written all over it. Some white person gave them that idea from the top, and their job was to sell that shit. I don't want to talk about Trina, because Trina is like the universal power source. She's the cutoff point. She's the thing that if things go wrong, that's the gauge that blows, not any of the good equipment. The white folks are always safe. She's a firewall. If we walk away getting upset with Trina or Diddy or something shit like that, then the people behind them win. They always escape in the little escape helicopter, right? So look at the people, look at the organization that's paying for this. Look at the Trojan horse bullshit that they're pulling off. Look at this. Watch how this is being portrayed. The company that paid for Trina to do this is Black. BLK, right? Now watch this. Black owns the Black dating app. So they're a dating app that's pushing this agenda, right? Black.com or Black dating app is owned by Match.com, the same people that own Tinder and shit. It's a white-owned company. So a white-owned company is the company, a white-owned company disguised and insinuating that it's a black company. This is why you got to watch them words like black-owned versus black-targeted or black-focused. A white-owned, black-focused dating company is paying for has-been black rappers to push an agenda and a message of sex for voting in the black community and the black community only. A white-owned a white-owned company is messaging to black people on voting, and the argument is booty for votes. So let's just take out all the middleman words and just say what's really happening. White folks are telling black people to exchange votes for booty. And look at the language that's used. Look at the out of order, anachronistic, out of context, yo, on fleek white people speak that's used in the advertising for this thing. It's just overt. It almost comes off as if they were trying not to reach black people. It comes off like they just made the minimal effort and don't even realize that this is mocking of black people. And that's because the black people, the coons that they've put in charge of trying to reach and send messages to black people are themselves out of touch with black society. And that's the secret that the coons don't know how to tell these white folks. Remember I said episodes back, I said, I think it's called The Real Problems with Black People or The Real Problems with the Black Community. And I was talking about these coons and I said, what's about to happen is this is the coons' last hurrah for this batch of coons politically. Remember when Joe Biden was in that room yelling at them black folks and talking about y'all better get behind the Hispanics and this, that, and the third, and you better, he was talking to a room of coons whose job it was to get the message out to the rest of black society to praise Joe Biden as our Lord and Savior. And here we are. This is the coons' last hurrah. If they can't show, and remember I told you, this is our first weapon to clear the coons. We don't have to do anything. If they can't show that all of this, get your booties to the polls, no voting, no vucking, BS, if they can't make this work, if they can't show that these efforts work in any sizable amount for this election cycle, their services are going to be terminated. What good is an influencer that can't influence anybody? So they're very desperate. They're very worried. And that's why I said our control over our media is essential. A commercial like this is only going to reach the lowest common denominator. Remember, we're only a few months removed from Vax That Thing Up, which also didn't work. Get your booties to the polls, which didn't work. You know what I'm saying? So these people are in hot water with white society. This is why you see Roland Martin get so frustrated and be calling y'all names and stuff like that. He's knowing, damn it, I need this to work. Look, he used to work on CNN. Now this nigga's on YouTube with us. That's how far he's fallen off the machine. These people are desperate. Y'all had Angela Rye and all them on the show. Black folks, we ignored them so hard, we didn't even know the show had gotten canceled. You got these niggas on Fox Soul. It's not as good being a coon as it used to be. That's how you know we're making progress. You know you're doing good when you're making coons uncomfortable. And I told y'all episodes ago, that was the first step. Is we're cutting out the noise. We show that this bullshit doesn't work. White folks get the message when they see black behavior on a spreadsheet. They realize, oh, this didn't get no votes. Oh, this hasn't gotten any play. They can look at their numbers and tell, see all the little positive reviews and comments on that thing. Those are all bots. Those aren't real people. They know that shit's not getting no kind of play other than getting thumbs down and noses in the air from the black community. And we need to use this in black media as ammunition. You need to use this as ammunition to show black people this is what they think of us. This kind of thing offends and disrespects multiple subsections of the black community. And the kind of black person that would be in favor of or falling for this kind of stuff is, kind of on the, I don't want to say it, but you know what I'm saying. Kind of on the outskirts with the black community anyway. It's going to be the Skittles group. And to be honest with you, that group doesn't have as much power in the black community as they like to promote. We are careening towards black non-involvement politically in this election cycle. Careening towards it. And this last commercial shows us that they're not interested in presenting an argument to black people as to why we should vote for the Democratic Party. This tells us that they're going to be phoning it in. And that's fine by us, because that means we're being underestimated. That's fine by us. Now, I want to use an example of the Revolutionary War and talk about how we can get our message across. We're going to have to go a little low tech. Right now, everybody's on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and there's going to be a lot of censorship going on. You need to find ways to communicate with each other that's on the low. Everything doesn't got to be broadcast all the time. Everything doesn't got to be hashtagged all the time. Everything doesn't have to be a movement or a demonstration that's out front and in the public. There's a lot of interactions that need to happen in person and off the internet. There's a lot of interactions that need to happen as we're going into the holiday season where people are known to congregate and that kind of stuff doesn't look suspicious. There needs to be small groups of people meeting and linking up and conversating and getting things straight and setting up networks of messaging in that manner. There needs to be more talk in the DMs. There needs to be more group chats off record. Start using Teams. Start using what's it called? I can't remember the name of it now. It's something Yard. But anyway, start talking offline. Start talking in private to each other. Phone calls, emails. What I'm seeing as a problem, I'll put the secure the tribe niggas to the side. Let's just assume that their intentions were pure. I'll put that to the side. You guys had no ground game. When I talked about Marcel Dixon, and I'm keeping it fair, he lost. He would have had more of a vote because of ground game. The internet is not reality. The internet's a reflection of reality, but it's not reality. There's a lot more people in real life than there are online. There's a lot of people that don't have any social media. There's a lot of people that lurk on social media. There's a lot of people I know that just have burner accounts on social media. They don't have a public persona. Most of the people on social media are bots. It's not real life. It's literally tapping into the matrix, and there's programs and shit running around like they're people. Real coordination, real organization requires ground game. Let's put the secure the tribe niggas back in it because there was some goofy shit they was on. If you're complaining that new black media isn't covering you, but you haven't reached out to members of new black media, your ground game is whack. The end. Ground game. You start to realize a lot of these niggas online don't even really know each other. They don't even really call each other. That's where most of the fallout happens. Over the dumbest shit. And it stalls progress. And it shows an inability to message. We're not in formation. When you see soldiers marching, it's not just for show. When you see bands, that's the show. We're in lockstep. We're thinking as one. We're a big entity thinking as one. That shows higher intelligence. Pride got to get put to the side. That requires discipline, communication. The fact that we can't do that kind of stuff on a large scale shows where our mental limitations are. And they'll be able to take advantage of that. We got to start knowing. See, one advantage about being black folks has always been we know us. And now it looks like we don't really got that no more with the internet. We got to reestablish that. We're beyond the point of asking, who are you? We should be. If our media game was right. The second that this new reparations march popped up with this new guy, we should already know. There's not enough black people in America and online for the YouTube niggas to not know the Instagram niggas. And we both doing the same thing. We should have people properly vetted. We shouldn't be allowing people like Grandmaster Jay from the NFA to pop up and we not instantly know, oh, that nigga's a scam. You remember this dude used to be over here for this and the blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we know him. He's bullshit. We should be able to see niggas like him and D-Ray McKesson a mile away. They shouldn't be able to implant niggas from our own gene pool on us and we don't know where they came from. That should be known shit. I can understand in the 60s not knowing who this nigga was. 2022, you should have this nigga's whole profile. You be having these rappers' whole profile. You be having these street niggas' whole profile. You be whole Al Prophet, damn DJ Vlad videos on the whole article on that nigga. But we don't know nothing about these people politically that pop up. We don't vet niggas. We just, when somebody pops up online that's black and starts talking that good shit, we just start listening to what they're saying. We don't vet that person. We just start giving them money. It's so good, you can scam people and just sit down for a little bit and come back and scam us again. Jay Morrison's trying to pop his little scamming ass head up. Dominican J. Rich. The man's so full of shit, he ended up getting a medical condition and had to have part of his colon removed. He was just so full of shit. We don't even have an attitude or an appetite for knowing this stuff. When you start researching somebody's background, we like exposing somebody. But we don't find vetting them as anything appealing. We should know everything about this National Reparations League. We should know where the hell did that come from. Our messaging got to be on point. And you don't just do messaging with words, you do them with demonstrations and taking advantage of spectacle. Now, getting back to spectacle. Black death and black votes are important. And we're coming up on a midterm season. And it's not a normal midterm. The stakes are so high. It's a midterm that's getting looked at like a national election almost. Like, I mean, almost like a presidential election. Because it has such big implications for the presidential election. Now, they thought they were going to have this big red wave, and I thought that too. But it looks like the media is kind of quietly smothering what's coming. Now the portion of the midterms where it's going to be red win after red win after red win is coming. And they're really going to be looking to lean on black folks as a firewall. Democrats have a saying, demographic is destiny. So that means like, oh, if you're Hispanic, we know you're voting for us. If you're black, we know you're voting for us. If you're white, 50-50. Are you gay? Are you a woman? Okay, you might vote for us. That's how they count their votes. It's going to throw everything off of a tally when the black vote don't show up. And this period between when the black vote don't show up in the midterms and leading up to the national election is when new black media is going to have to hammer home specific legislation that we are going to vote for. We can't allow them to just put something on the table and we yay or nay it. That's going to waste time. We got to push for some shit. And the very first thing we need to push for, to put a timer, to put a time clock on their bullshit, is recurring cash payments. Recurring cash payments. That's it. We want recurring cash payments while we're awaiting the final structure of this legislation. We want cash payments. We want business relief. We want emergency funds that were held back from us. We want infrastructure funds. Every single thing they're pushing through, we want to set aside provision for the black communities across America. including straight up cash payments. Airplane time, thank you for listening. You know how I go. Now, black media seems to actually be strongest right now in written form on Twitter, followed by YouTube and Instagram. Some of the biggest black media influencers exist on those platforms. And their followers seem to be the most active. It's not just your videos, it's your comment section. It's not just your tweet. It's the quotes on the tweet and the retweets, right? That's your echo chamber. They're called your followers for a reason. They don't even call them your friends no more. Like, these are your followers, nigga. These are your disciples. You know what I'm saying? This is how we need to utilize our media. We need to start focusing on talking to each other, getting our message cool with each other first, building our code with each other. The more we start to talk to each other and focus our media on us, the more they'll be forced to be on the outside looking in and wondering what's going on. You guys have all seen that video where they're asking Muhammad Ali and Martin Luther King, what are you niggers talking in there? What are you guys talking about? Oh, nothing. White folks did not like that answer. Oh, we're talking about basketball and Parcheesi. White folks did not like that answer. Because that's what they do. They have think tanks and conversations in private for how they're going to present this fake ass performance Democrat versus Republican presentation for us. I want to show you guys some stuff in the media that all pertains to how wholly unseriously the black vote is taken and how childlike they look at us. You know, like we just got done with no voting, no vucking. That's a commercial that white people put out to the black community with regards to politics, right? That's just one. We're fresh off of Get Your Booties to the Polls. Again, white folks talking to black folks about politics. Look at all the conversation from Bill Maher. This is everybody on the left, from the most outspoken lefty like Bill Maher, with Real Time with Bill Maher, who's always saying some controversial anti-black shit to let you know that racism is on both sides of this political spectrum. Bill Maher always on openly talking about how black folks are just political tokens, right? He does everything but goddamn say it. Everything but say it. But look at how everybody on the left, from the most outspoken like Bill Maher to The Hill to Breaking Points, Sager goes in on her every time. Look at how hard everybody goes in. And I hate to come to this woman's rescue in any way, but look at how hard everybody goes in on Kamala Harris. And not just goes in on her for her political ineptitude, but how they specifically note how it cannot be an option in any way for her to ascend to the presidency. You notice how it's completely normal. White folks are holding a dual thought in their mind that they may have to remove their president from office because he's literally mentally incapable to run office and take care of himself. He's almost a danger to himself physically and health-wise, right? They understand that they may have to remove him, but they're reluctant to remove him because it's, one, a very unprecedented move, and it shows weak leadership in a time where we're at war, basically. And two, that would mean that this nigger bitch becomes the president, and we under no circumstances can actually allow her to seriously be president. Now, mind you, white folks put her up there. It wasn't like black folks were so enthusiastic about Kamala Harris that we forced her in there. Yeah, them black women, a couple of Democratic Party black women wrote a letter talking about they need to put a black woman in that spot. We ain't talking about her. We weren't even considering her a damn black woman. That's a whole East Indian up there who did nothing but put East Indians in her party, in her office, in her cabinet. But anyway, white folks kept pushing Kamala Harris on black folks. Black folks knew she was horrible for black folks. She was horrible to black people in California. Enslaving niggas, having them fight forest fires, putting black women in jail for made up, trumped up truancy clauses, all sorts of Missy Ann shit. White folks pushed Kamala Harris on America and on the black community, just made her represent black folks, right? Put that bitch in Oakland for about 6 months. Don't show her husband, right? Kamala Harris, in many ways, is the human form. She's the personification of everything wrong with how the Democratic Party deals with black people politically. Just a giant token. Wasn't even a good token. White folks now, white folks on the Hill and Breaking Points and Bill Maher openly admit, yeah, we were just using her as a black token to look less racist. But now that we may actually have to use that office of vice president for what it's for, we can't seriously have her in any position of power. Which is exactly how they treat every black person in office. No black person in any political office has any real power, any real governing civic political power to do anything that white folks won't allow. You have whole DAs. When you get somebody that does try to do the right thing, who was that district attorney that tried to prosecute that white cop that killed that black man at that Wendy's? And all of a sudden there was a recall election. That nigga was gone. Right? He was just gone. That's not even how their political process works in that state. But it does today. That nigga said the wrong thing. He's gone. I've seen black judges get reprimanded and put in check and have to apologize to the lawyer in court because the lawyer's white and you said something that offended that white lawyer. This whole thing's a sham. They know that black people are in office as tokens. They understand that. And what I love about when white folks are desperate is they'll stop the presses and freeze the conveyor belt and just say the quiet parts out loud when the chips is on the line because they think we're not even listening. They're openly talking on all these shows about how Kamala Harris, if we have to pull Joe Biden, we're going to automatically pull her too because we can't have her in office. Why? Well, because she's incompetent. You just had a guy in office that was like mentally ill. They would rather look at the logic behind this. Kamala Harris is so incompetent to these white folks that they would rather leave the senile, incompetent white guy in office to make sure that she doesn't become the president. But they forced you to accept her as the vice president. For identity, your politics can reach no higher than identity politics. You don't believe me? Watch this. What is a key policy of the black community? Like I know we're saying reparations now, but if you took reparations off the board, like the Congressional Black Caucus, 50 seats in Congress, one of the most powerful caucuses theoretically in America. What is its policy for black people? Exactly. There's no politics involved in any of the black political apparatus. We're just around. We're there as tokens. That's on both sides. I think I mentioned before, there was an argument over some guy, I think on the Republican side, being accused of being racist. And he literally brought a black secretary up as a prop to just stand there and nod her head when he was like, am I racist, Beulah May? Am I racist? And she, no, sir, you ain't racist. He literally brought a black woman up there as a prop. These commercials, this media, they're letting you know straight to your face, we don't take you seriously as a people. We're running circles on you politically to where you don't even know you're supposed to get resources. You don't even know that. They be making you think you don't even pay taxes as a people, that your whole life is just to collect section. You work a whole job. You're sitting down with your little H&R Block, Hewlett Jackson paperwork, doing deductibles and shit, paying taxes like everybody else. But they got you thinking that black people are just getting over on the system, living on Section 8 and welfare, buying Cadillacs and eating chicken, not doing a goddamn thing to contribute to this beast. That's because you don't have proper media that makes these arguments and counter narratives on a consistent level like theirs does. They're able to honestly try to make a narrative about how we need to have more cops in the street while, remember I talked about omission, while omitting the corruption of the police. And it's teaming out. There's a little corny ass white dude that's a libertarian that's on the Hill that comes on mission. I'm gonna try to include the clip, but he's talking out one side of his neck one day, talking about we need to have more cops in all these cities and these black inner cities need to have more cops. And then in the next breath, he magically talking about how he don't know how this cop that was under investigation for gang raping with other cops, gang raping a woman, magically ends up accidentally killing the other cop that was the witness that was testifying against him in a demonstration at the police force. And this is one of them things to where it's clear this guy was murdered. What kind of demonstration were you doing where you break the guy's ribs and break the guy's neck and lacerate his liver and the man was beat to death? There wasn't no damn demonstration. You caught him slipping and beat the shit out of him. And they're covering it up. So what part of the police do you think black folks have a problem with? The law and order or the corruption part? But we don't ever get to make that argument because the argument as presented by this dominant society's media is that we're just lawless ass people that got a problem with 5-0. Like, get out of here. But it's black media constantly putting up these stories of corruption, constantly putting up these stories of racial aggression. That's why they get mad that you exist. Now we got to start doing it with the politics because the politics ties it all together. This Jackson, Mississippi story, you see how the politics tied right into it. They tried to write the story off like it was Chokwe Lumumba just not knowing what he was doing in Jackson. No, you guys are funneling the money off to goddamn Brett Favre. You start following the money. You start following these corruption cases. These things aren't well hidden. It's been so corrupt. You can shine a dim light on this and find corruption. We need to start uncovering this shit with them. We need to start getting black people's eyes awakened to just how bad we're being screwed over. Our politicians don't make that argument because they work for them. Our phony black activists and news media outlet people don't talk about this stuff because they work for them. We should be using Kamala Harris as an example. We didn't vote for her. She don't represent us. You made her represent us. And now that it's time to actually use her for that position you put her in as a token, you're making it clear that, oh, no, she was a token all along, so now we're going to move her out. Now we got to take this seriously. No, you're going to start taking black folks and the black vote seriously. All these mediocre ass white folks get to go ahead and be mediocre all the damn time. But as soon as you put some black folks up there to be mediocre, now we got standards. I'm not a fan of that Catherine Jean-Pierre, but I noticed that they're sure going a lot harder on her than they were going on Jen Circleback goddamn Psaki, who never answered a goddamn question right. They gave her absolute. I saw one time they asked this woman a question about the economy. And she said, I don't know about that, but I can tell you that we got the country's first female so-and-so in this office. And then just moved to the next question. That was literally her answer. Now, if Catherine Jean-Pierre did that, they'd be on her head. Now, for the record, Catherine Jean-Pierre does not know what she's doing, is not good at her job, is looking bumbly and stumbly. But so did Sarah Fat Huckabee Sanders. All them people are horrible at that damn job. All of them were. They're professional liars. It's known that the reason that these black women are in these positions and that the reason that these black folks are in these positions are token reasons. You're not to be taken seriously and you're looked at as in the way. But the messaging behind all this is, wow, black girls rock and look how positive of an image. No, we got to start changing this messaging and showing how we're being tokenized. But again, I've gone too far. I'm trying to keep the content going. So I'm going to cut this one off here. And we're going to continue a little bit with another topic that's been bothering me. There's been a lot going on. And I want to get to talking to you about something coming up. I really want to, the biggest opportunity we have for consistent advertising of our history and segueing it into our politics is going to be February coming up. Got a couple months. Black History Month will be coming up. We need to start taking Black History Month back. We need to take MLK's birthday back and take MLK Day back. But we really got to take back Black History Month because that's 28 consistent days of education opportunities for our people. And what we need to start doing is we got to start changing how Black History Month is celebrated from just random fortune cookie fact. George Washington Carver made a peanut milkshake. We need to change it from just random, Harriet Tubman. And we need to have it be a chronologically concise, clear communication on the history of Negroes. We need clear definitions, clear terms, timelines, significant people, significant events that all draw back to the money. See, that's the number one thing we don't communicate when it comes to our history and what we've been through. We always communicate the emotional, and that's very easy because that's part of the spectacle. But we never communicate the money. We just hear about these Black Wall Streets and just, I think we had some Black Wall Streets. I don't know what happened. They went away. We never communicate the money that was lost from that, the lost wealth opportunities. We hear about the lynchings and we make it seem like white folks are just mean, when in many cases they were taking people's businesses, taking people's land, eminent domain, running freeways right through our neighborhoods and through our businesses. All this stuff needs to be documented. But I'm going to segue on the next one. Signing out.